All right, I'm just speaking with Tom Larsen, CEO of ELO on the TSX. Tom, I was very pleasantly surprised when I woke up a couple days ago and I saw the news of hole 72, which tagged into 33 meters, grading 1.4% tin. And that was inside a wider interval of almost 90 meters, grading 0.74% tin. Those tin grades are, the term world class is thrown around a lot, but those are world class actually. I mean, when I, compare a tin intercept to a copper hole, I usually multiply the grade by 3 or 4 to get a copper equivalent. So if we're talking 90 meters of 0.74% tin, well, that's almost 2 to 3% copper. That's extremely high grade. Well done.
Well, let's thank Oswaldo and the technical team and Dr. Pearson for their persistence. This infill drilling campaign, well, and step out somewhat, but around the Santa Barbara higher grade added area from historical channel sampling and drilling has really worked out well. We were expecting, better grades, obviously. This particular hole, this is the only hole that we in the program that was directed towards that far western tin target. But because of the success we were getting in the last few sessions, the last few holes, in the sort of the silver polymetallic, and then there's sort of a silver tin transitional zone along then with this particular zone just to the west. What was proven to us was the fact that we're coming up with what they call an intrusive breccia type of feeder, and the dimensions of that were explained in this latest press release are around 7 by 4 by 700, and you multiply that through with your 2.8 density number, and you're up to about a 400-500 million ton zonation area. Now, not all of that's going to run commercially, obviously, but you're zeroing in on some higher grade material. And this is what we're doing. I mean, you saw the last two press releases prior to this one. Grades are being reported at 60, 80 gram silver, high pockets, low pockets, and that's all going to be put into, our PEA. And I'm not, we're with suddenly this new tin hole, along with there's still 3 or 4 holes left on the more in the silver polymetallic silver tin area just to the east of this particular hole that will be reported in the next 2-3 weeks. We decided to keep the drill, keep one drill at least on site temporarily, and continue with more drilling into this tin zone. So my belief is that now, with the fact that this is a major discovery, it proves that it's typical of the type of cassiterite oxide that you want to be in, because with an oxide, a cassiterite, the separation is so much cheaper and easier, recoveries are that much better, capex is that much less, and that can be incorporated probably into the first year or second year of the 12-15 year mine life of our inaugural PEA expected out later in the year. So this is really helpful, and that'll obviously improve the overall value per ton of material running through for the PEA. Again, at the end of the day, you'll see 3 circuits. Tin will have its own circuit, obviously. And some people talk about 2 world-class deposits now being outlined. I mean, in a way, yeah, you could say that. At the end of the day, how it's going to be mined out, well, let's enjoy what we're dealing with right now. I'm sure we'll have expertise on that regard, hopefully with partners down the road on that. In the meantime, this tin number is identical to other, not world-class, but giant Bolivian type tin deposits. One is the Chiroque, tin operation, which is owned by Comable, privately owned, about 40, 50 kilometers due north of us on the tin belt. Lala Glua, it's similar type of high-grade veins with host cassiterite of around 0.3, 0.4. But the high-grade veins has been the sort of mining of the high-grade veins, not sort of an open pit bulk tonnage type of operation that you will see down the road on this, because they didn't have that type of thought process when they first discovered things like Cherokee or these other massive tin deposits. They really went after the high grade. And we, in our press release, illustrate some of the high grade that's in that hole at 6.54%, 1.5 meter samples that are actually the veinlets, the high grade veinlets. It's all the exact same material as what you see at Cherokee. It's all from the same source, the tin porphyry. It's an uplift, like Cherokee is an uplifted structure. And again, in our case, it's somewhat uplifted. But again, it's the intrusive breccia that we have outlined, and that's sort of the feeder. And that's where we're drilling into and will continue. So yeah, it's exciting.
So when this drill program started, a few of the objectives were to be able to fully outline the vertical and lateral extent of the high-grade silver domain, and then also to fill in some gaps that were previously characterized as lower grade in the maiden, resource model. And you had a strong, um, you know, a strong knowledge essentially that those domains that were being characterized as low grade were not really low grade, and you just needed more drilling to prove them up. And then the third one was to expand the higher grade tin. So I think with the results of hole 72 and some of the other holes, you're starting to really prove that the higher grade tin domain extends to the west and to the northwest. Are you being able to also prove that those lower grade pockets are really not so low grade? And are you continuing to find the high grade silver?
Yeah, we're finding high grade silver, not so much in the tin domain. Like, as you noticed in that press release, we had like, I think a 15, 20 gram, 25 gram silver interval over, I don't have the number offhand. But that was higher up. But that is more, this is more obviously a tin related sector to the west. And that'll allow the pit to be, basically pulled to the west, sort of reconfigured to include a lot of what we expect to see tin. When you mentioned the low grade, a lot of the misconception on this initial MRE was the fact that a lot of these areas that looked like waste or gaps just hadn't been drilled. This is a massive system. It's big, and to cover everything, and the criticism, obviously, again, which I'll dispute at this stage of the game. I mean, I do wish that in hindsight, maybe we'd come out with just, really sticking to an upper area to show better economics. But it did really give us a system, like the extent of the system, 600 million tons of 100-meter spacings that even widen out as they fan out. So even to come up with 14, 15 gram, 13 gram, whatever it was, 300,000 ounces of silver in situ, deemed as, like, even now today by third party, is the third largest silver, just silver alone, deposit, non-commercial obviously, but in situ. I mean, I would say that's something, and it allowed us to really zero in on the upper area for the economics. And so by doing 50-meter infill, I mean, it gives you an indicated number, which most of what we'll report in the PEA will be indicated, a lot of it, because, we're dealing with 50-meter spacings in the area that we knew just from the internal technical work that we've been doing, modeling, leapfrogging, that the higher grade silver The zinc's been somewhat consistent, although we're getting some higher grade zinc as well. Lead's been consistent, but the silver, that's what I've really been pleased with on the last few smaller financings that underwrote these, these infill holes around that Santa Barbara ramp area to the west. And then for this added, we knew that like in the original MRE, you saw the tin domain, and we stated it was very underexplored, but we showed over 100, I think 100,000 tons potential in situ. And, when you take a look historically at some of the drill holes, the longer drill holes, we were hitting in certain holes sporadically the odd 0.3, 0.4 tin number, even 2 years ago. But then putting that together and figuring out, because that's obviously the same sort of zonation area where this cassiterite hole is coming from, because that was cassiterite as well. So it's going to be really on the tin side. I'd like to do another 7,000 meters of drilling in around that tin domain and in the tin transitional silver domain parallel to that. Because I have a funny feeling that we're going to be able to, even if we come out with a first pass inaugural PEA of 180 to 200 million tons, I have a funny feeling that this is going to be more like, 250, 350 when everything's said and done. So I think, but not, and obviously not initially. So, what I look at the San Cristobal operation and their production decision on what they had initially for that decision back in 2003. And that was basically 220 million tons of only silver, lead, zinc at comparable grades that we're now starting to come up with. However, now we got a tin component in our case. So, that's where we're heading. We will definitely raise more money. I've kept this thing down at 84 million shares. A lot of peers are up at 200, 250, 300 million shares. Some of these companies that people love in the British Columbia NDP belt. So, that's fun. Go for it. We're pleased with what we're doing. I know Bolivia still has a discount. Everyone knocks Bolivia. We've been there for 4 years, and we have the right people, and we're really happy to be there. So, on we go. Very, very pleased with where we're heading.
Yeah, I mean, I like the plan. I like the fact that you're drilling another tin step out hole right now. I think that's exciting by itself, and I like that you said you want to do more drilling on the tin domain because you think it could be maybe 2 or 3x its current size. So this tin unit, this intrusion, unit, which is basically an offshoot. I mean, it's interpreted to be an offshoot of a larger porphyry system at depth. I mean, at least that's the interpretation as it stands today. That's very interesting because that gives a lot of vertical extent to test. Also a lot of lateral extent to test. And then a buried porphyry. I mean, that could be quite large, and based upon the in situ numbers as it stands now, 300 million ounces of silver, 4 million tons of zinc, 1.7 million tons of lead, and the tin is estimated to be about 130,000 tons. Now, I don't think tin is very well understood. I think silver is pretty well understood. 300 million ounces of silver, in an ore body is very large. It's among the largest, silver deposits in the world, quite frankly. But the tin is not well understood. So China is the biggest tin miner, in the world. And in 2023, China mined about 70,000 tons of tin, and the whole entire country of China was 70,000 tons of tin. So we're stacking up pretty well to some of the largest 10 countries and 10 mines, in the world, and I hear you say, well, it might be 300,000 tons of tin or 350,000 tons. We just need to drill more. Um, so to me, that is very exciting. So let's talk a little bit more about where you drill. Where's the rig right now? And where do you plan to drill to further test this tin porphyry concept?
Well, we're simply basically stepping out 50 meters to keep it like keep to that indicated type of category. And so we're 50 meters. I'm not sure whether it's southwest, southeast of the of hole 72. I know we're at about 70 meters in. It'll be another vertical, like 80-degree, 85-degree hole, right down the guts of this thing. So it'll be close by. So obviously you want to keep it relatively tight if your aim is to try and bring it into the PEA on an indicated. I mean, going after it just for the sake of going after it, yeah, that could be a lot of fun. We're not in that type of market yet, so we've got to be a little careful. So yeah, I think 5 to 7,000 meters. I mean, this is sort of off the top of Oswaldo's head right now. Just based on what he's seen. And remember, Oswaldo has written books on metallogenic Bolivian style giant deposits and world-class deposits. He really does understand this stuff. Tin has been historically a mainstay metal in Bolivian mining history. They certainly understand it. And believe me, when you have cassiterite or, granulation and oxide, that's fantastic. So, we really are excited. We will continue to infill, whether it's radial or whatever, more at a 80-degree, 90-degree type of angle on this. We're also going to continue because we're getting great success next door to the east in the silver tin transitional domain next door to the Santa Barbara. So I want to keep drilling there. I want to keep drilling. Bottom line is, 6-8 months ago, we were talking about a pilot plant and a ramp and this sort of thing, and we still are scoping that process. Like Chris Holden and myself, or Chris is my VP for corporate. Chris goes back with me to the Champion days. He was a buy-side CFA with Investors Group, but really solid financial mind on just building out things from a financial perspective. And anyway, we're back down in New York. We've been spending time down there, meeting a new group of people, investors. It's been quite successful. So we're flying back down tomorrow. And then Chris, he'll leave Tuesday morning with Mike Hollywell, our tin metallurgist. We'll head over from Cornwall, and Chris will fly down to La Paz, Santa Cruz, and then over to La Paz with Mike to meet with our scoping people, Cavalera, who's sort of a procurement supply outreach in Bolivia for equipment. It'll be probably a modular type model. It'll be a 500 ton a day type of setup. 20 to 25 million dollar. The Rolls Royce would be a 25 million dollar CapEx number. We believe we've got financing in Bolivia, in country, for about 70-80% of it via a Boliviano issuance bond paid back in US dollars. Bolivia is very stretched for US dollars. They need more. So this is a good way. This particular company, Pan American Securities, did a $40-50 million bond issuance similar with another Bolivian, publicly traded Orvana, ORV, on the Toronto Stock Exchange, on a tailings project in Bolivia that they're dealing with that's going into production. So we are scoping that out as we speak. We've been working on this for 6 months. We haven't put a lot of money into this yet. I mean, but it's just an option. I mean, our number one, obviously, focus is to get this PA and show that eventually there could be a 30, 40-year mine life here. But in a market like this, if you can show some sort of practicality, even if it's very small scale, and you can show, like, a small crusher with a small ore sorter, and you're running that material out of the Santa Barbara adit, which would be rehab, that's part of the 20 million. It'd take about 18 months for completion. We're basically grandfathered on the mining permits, unlike, try doing that up here in the US or in Canada. So, that's actually quite interesting. And that really does actually have the attention of some of the analysts and people in Toronto and in England that we're talking to, and in the States. They quite like this idea. Usually, it would be collateralized on the plant, the modular transportable plant. And there's been a couple of hundred of these in the last 2 years built around the world. So it's not rocket science whatsoever. So Mike's going down and we'll with Chris, and we should have an initial scoping from Gecko out of Australia that we can then present to the financial group to maybe potentially move forward. And this would show, first of all, that the Bolivian government know that we're not just an explorer, that we're, we can show some very small scale production. It would also test the ore sorting. It would test the bulk tonnage and the fact that we believe that the material we're under reporting from, diamond drill holes, if you start bulk sampling, bulk mining in a small way. And if we're fortunate enough to bring in an off-taker for the small scale concentrates that would be resulting from this 500 ton a day going to 300 ton a day after ore sorting, that would give someone, for a very little money up front, and a glimpse into the bigger game. It would invite a bigger player in, and that's at the end of the day what we want to see, because obviously you want that combination of financial muscle, whether it's at the asset level, to build out a $500 million type CapEx number, $600 million. So that initiative is gaining a little bit of presence, and there'll be a bit of news flow on that. But the number one is to drill out right now over the next 6 months, really drill out the tin zone and the silver zones next door to the Santa Barbara adit. So yeah, things are quite busy, and it feels totally different from a year and a half ago. Thank God.
Yeah, it does. That's a breath of fresh air, Tom. So holes like 69, 70, 71, obviously 72. Are you gonna take some portions of these holes and do some met testing to see what the recoveries are, especially on the tin?
Well, we've already done a lot of the met testing anyway. Last year over in Cornwall, we took 7 tons of material over to Cornwall to Wardell Armstrong to actually, and that's where, so most of that metallurgical work is already done for the PEA, so we don't have to spend a lot of money on more met work. But we do have to do some met work now on the oxides on this tin that we've come up with, because it's in oxide. We've got to get a real recovery number for the PEA, and because we're using 50% right now, and that's based more on that sort of fine grain sulfide type tin that we tried working on, and we documented when we were using Blue Coast on Vancouver Island on the tin component. So yeah, so we're going to send that over because we believe we'll get 75% tin recovery, which is great in the oxides, but that has to be proven. So that'll go over, and also in Aurora, there's a good laboratory there, but we'll take it to Wardell and keep some over at Aurora for more granular testing. And I think they want to do a little bit of zinc sulfide, a little bit more of zinc sulfide testing. So yeah, that'll be ongoing.
And then the PEA. So, I don't want to nail you down on an exact, week or month, but what is the timing, look like on the PEA?
Well, Oswaldo's sort of suggesting, let's say 7,000 meters. at 350 all in because we're using PQ rather than 300. PQ is a wider diameter drill, which is helping us, we believe. So 7,000, he feels 7,000 max 10 will be more than enough to get us, get that volume to 180, 200, hopefully. And obviously incorporate a lot of higher grade silver and tin. So, with depending on what type of financing we have, if it's like another non-brokered $2-3 million placement, which I could do quickly, we'd have to be careful, probably just a couple of drills. But if I do something a little bit more, we'll see. I mean, it'll probably be 2 drills, PQ, and you're still averaging at least 80 to 100 meters meters a day. PQ is a touch slower because it's wider, but that'll eat through what let's say 150, let's say 1,000 meters a week.
About 3 months of drilling.
3 months of drilling. So 3 months of drilling. So it's now, let's say February, March, April. More of the PEA finalizing on the study with whatever met work, waiting for the tin oxides that we just came up with. April, May, June, I don't know. I'm hoping midsummer, late summer, we come up with a PEA. But
okay.
Please don't hold me to that.
Okay. We'll just say second half of 2025. Okay.
Yeah.
And so right now, one rig is going. I guess it's hole 73 if we stay in chronological order.
It's actually, well, no, because we drilled.
Oh, you drilled 73 already. Okay.
Yeah, 68. We've reported on 68, 69, 70, 71, 72.
It's 77. Okay, it's 77.
Yeah.
All right. So hole 77 is in progress, a 50-meter step out to the west in this newish tin domain, and then the plan is to drill 7 to 10,000 more meters and definitely further test the extent of the
tin, in that what they call TIF, the tin,
TIB, yeah.
TIB, sorry, intrusive breccia zone, but also infilling a little bit more into the silver area to the west of the Santa Barbara adit. It's all within. It's just the western side of the Santa Barbara adit in the open pit design, which again will be probably pushed out a bit more to incorporate more of the tin metal that's being found here.
And by the way, I mean, I love this plan, tin drilling, following up on this high grade interval of over 1% tin over 30 plus meters. And tin, by the way, yeah, it's definitely not in the headlines, but it's not like the price of tin is soft. I mean, it's $30,000 a ton again. It's about $14 a pound tin. So, if copper is $4 a pound, tin is 14 a pound, you can do the math. It's about 3.5x. You don't see many companies drill 33 meter or 4% copper. I mean, those are pretty rare holes, but obviously, look, the prize is probably much bigger. And it may not all be above 1% tin grades, but even 0.3 or 0.4% tin is extraordinary.
I always use just this, let's say 0.4 tin in cassiterite, 0.4 tin per ton, just multiply that by 20. So that gives you 8 pounds. So if 0.5, 10 pounds, 1%, 20 pounds, like 1.4 is 28 pounds. So if you multiply that by $14, $15 US, you're getting a $300-400 rock. And if you can get 70% recoveries, and if it's in a open pit mode based on $10, $15 all-in mining and procurement costs, or processing costs at least, I mean, the numbers can be crazy. It's not obviously not all going to be 1.4%, but even 0.4, 0.3 is still 6 times 15, $90, 75% of $90. Let's say 60, 65, and you're pulling it out at 15, gross profit. And remember, I'm always trying to say 30, $40 gross profit in the big model. So that does very well. Now that might be 25% of the overall metal value,
Hmm.
but that's that's a nice contributor. And if we
Yeah,
can,
I mean, yeah,
go
if you
ahead.
think about like copper porphyry deposits, the really big ones are economic at 0.3% copper. Now, obviously, that's going to be a big open pit. But if it's an open pit and the recoveries are 70% or thereabouts, I think 0.3% tin is a very economic grade, especially when you're getting the silver as well, and some of that lead and zinc that you have. Uh, it's it's pretty exciting. I mean, the last two pieces of news from Eloro that you put out in January have me the most optimistic on the company that I've been in a couple years. And I like the plan of action that you have to continue to follow up in this tin domain, test this buried tin porphyry concept. And also, it's not just that area. You also have stepping out to the northeast. You even have plenty of room to drill and expand the resource to the south. And then with a PEA in the second half of the year to really show the economics. It's a pretty exciting year ahead.
I think, one thing that I think that could really enhance the stock price though, is if, this is why I do like this sort of, small pilot plant idea. If we can enhance a name, that is capable of building this thing out, to that pilot plant, like on a offtake arrangement, small offtake and a small equity injection with the debt from, Bolivia. That I think would get people sort of away from this Bolivia discount and could really help immensely just our credibility. And so we really have to, it's hard but I think we are starting to get more attention, especially in the last couple of months in regard to this higher grade silver, the San Cristobal sort of situation, and the tin. So, I think we're going to have a solid year here. So we'll see what happens.
Tom, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Robert. Take care.
Cheers.